Well, hey there, ho there, hi there. This is David Vos. I hope you're having a wonderful day where you are. I'm having a wonderful day here in Oklahoma. It's a beautiful day. And got some information I'd like to share with you today about some things that, how would you describe what we're going to talk about? Well, we're going to talk about pyramids. We're going to talk about caves and underground tunnels. Some things that we've been talking about in the past, but maybe try to put a few of these things together. What's really going on? We did some videos with Google Maps or Google Earth, and we showed how you can visibly see corridors under the ocean. We've looked at the Grand Canyon, and we've looked at certain sort of tunnels and caves that they've got barred and guards, and they don't let anybody in. We've seen the pyramids that are sprinkled around the world. We've talked about the civilizations that have been wiped out. And I found another sort of hotspot of these kinds of ancient ruins, a fascinating thing that you would really probably enjoy watching. It maybe adds a little piece to this little puzzle. Of all the amazing places on Earth, I think the area around the Mediterranean is probably as amazing as just about anywhere. And, we see these great pyramids down there in the arid climates, and it makes sense that they would survive there. They're covered in sand, and then they take the sand off, and there you go. You've got the remnant of this Sphinx, where they found buried up to the very top of the head. They had to unbury it from the sand. It was preserved under the sand. And sand is very dry in a dry climate, so things tend to be preserved there. However, in areas where there are a lot of trees, like in Brazil, in the rainforest, the trees grow up within 50 years and completely remove all notice or appearances of any ancient cities. They're gone. The roots grow in between the rocks and cracks and bust it apart. Avalanches, and where there are trees, there's more moisture and water and erosion, and so you don't find these cities in areas like rainforest. But you see, it's true also of areas like Canada. A lot of the United States is covered in forest, and Siberia and Japan, and areas where we don't see so many of these pyramids. There may be actually a lot more and bigger ones than we could have ever imagined. And I'm going to show you some of the evidence of that, especially in that area around France, where Mary Magdalene and Mary of Salome and Martha and Lazarus and the 72 that Jesus chose all got on a boat and went to Marseille, France. And it's some very interesting things there. I believe we'll find one day, when we are able to go in there and open up these caverns, we'll find treasures like you would not believe, that will stun the human imagination. And I was thinking about that. If we're about ready to go through the tribulation and this earth's going to be burned up, what about all the artifacts? It would seem such a shame. I mean, just out of curiosity, I hope Jesus, swings by and grabs a lot of these ancient artifacts, such as the Ark of the Covenant and ancient tablets of stone that give our history, perhaps, vast jewels and wealth and information and maps and truths and teachings. And I believe it has to happen before the earth is completely burned up and we are changed, because we need to have this history preserved. I'm sure that all of that is preserved somehow in the Acacia records and our DNA and all of that, of course. But I find these ancient relics, these monuments with cuneiform writings and hieroglyphs and stuff, were there to preserve ancient truths. And I know that we're going to see a great deal of information coming to light very soon. But now, let me show you some very interesting things. Interesting ruins and information, but also how that all ties into a lot of information that people are putting out there right now about They're calling it the mud flood. And, people are talking about maybe our history has been hidden from us, and did they rewrite history? And why is all this great archaeological, these massive buildings, why do they seem to go beneath the ground? I've been saying that, I think I've said a couple of times that I don't agree that there was a great massive mud flood, kind of like the flood of Noah's day that destroyed all of civilization. People were talking about the Tartarians and stuff like this. There were Tartarians, they called them that, but they were also called Mongols and Turks and other words. I believe these had a lot to do with the 10 lost tribes that were scattered as the Scythians and others that were taken all around the world and started religions and civilizations. China and Japan talked about how the lost tribes of Israel went to Japan. Since they were from Samaria, they formed what we call the samurai priesthood. They have this religion called Shinto, which the priests wear white and carry a box that looks like the Ark of the Covenant on two poles on a specific time of the year that we would know as the Day of Atonement. And they act the whole thing out just the way the ancient Israelites did. But I've seen these pictures where all around the world, Europe and Russia and China and everywhere in the world, even in San Francisco, there's some pictures where beneath these huge buildings, these magnificent cathedrals built with stones that must weigh tons, right? We talk all the time about the Great Pyramid, but these ruins in Europe are massive. And but there always seems to be these windows that are about halfway sticking up out of the ground. And then the other half, you got to go down some stairs to get to. And there's always these basements underneath all of these ancient cities. And the way, if you've seen any of these pictures where people are showing the basements, they don't appear to have been built underground. It looks like they were built above ground, and then over time, they just ended up having to make stairways down to get to them because of something that happened. People are calling it a mud flood, perhaps. Well, that's not what happened. See, what is happening is that civilization has been here for a long, long time, thousands and thousands, and unbeknownst to what Christians wanted to believe, it's more like 100,000 years or more, a couple of 100,000 years. Mankind has been living. There have been civilizations, and it's one civilization built on top of another. We go back to the time of Atlantis. It's just now a legend. It was sunk in the sea. But when civilizations, become destroyed, whether it's a volcanic ash that covers them, the people sometimes will come back to the same locations over time and build on the ruins, the ancient ruins. They'll use some of the ancient buildings that are falling over and, sometimes they'll reuse the rocks, the stones, and rebuild things. But where there are still they're made out of solid rock. Sometimes these structures were preserved and they went ahead and used them and just built on top of them. Over perhaps a period of 1,000 years, there could be several stories beneath the ground that the peasants and those who don't have any key to the management positions, and the underworkings of these civilizations, but the manners who had the keys were the only ones that were even aware what was beneath the store. The workers didn't have a key. They were never privy to the meetings that were held down there by the elite, in the tunnels. And this went on for many years. And probably there was a time when some of the higher elite purposefully did not reveal the locations of these ancient corridors and cities and palaces that are underground, keeping them away from the public so that they could use them in private and have their own separate little civilization away from us peasants. So they could, not have to be worried about speaking in secret, and making their plans. They go down underground and they live it up and drink their wine and have their parties and plan their world strategy or their shenanigans or whatever from there. But it makes a lot of sense when you see these massive tunnels under the ocean that we looked at the other day. And you wonder, how did this massive underground civilization get there? And then you remember Atlantis. That was like 10,000 years ago. And you go to the encyclopedia and you ask the questions. It's like, where are we from? What's going on? And they're like, oh, we don't know. Magnum Crow man or whatever, Neanderthals. And all, they got all this stuff that you're supposed to study that is so confusing that what it tends to do is say, look, we don't know what the past is. Now, why would they want us to believe we don't know? They just give us a little book that kind of is like a parable about our past. If we can figure it out, right, then maybe we get rewarded with, a little clarification, but almost no one will ever figure it out, right? It's like almost a maze, and they're just daring us to figure it out. But they're trying to hide it, to keep us like, you're never going to wake up until you figure this out, and we're going to try and hide it as much as we can. That's what it seems like. I believe that we were told that it was only 6,000 years since Adam and all of that to hide great eternal truths about our evolution and our spiritual progress. They didn't want us to know about the plan of the Lord that will all attain unto salvation. This plan that is reincarnation. They didn't want us to understand our true nature and how it relates to this physical world. And so all of the ancient writings and jewels and knowledge and wisdom, they said, man, this is too much for the people. Right? They were trying to build a tower to reach the divine being, right? And they had all one language and one science. But Yahweh says, no, confuse their language and scatter them all over the earth. Don't let them know this science. Where did they take the science? Well, underground. The books went underground. When the Greeks came in and leveled Heliopolis, Alexander the Great in 330, Heliopolis was a massive underground labyrinth of books and knowledge and wisdom. And the priests knew that it had to be preserved, so they went underground. That's why we found the Nag Hammadi library, because the priests knew that if they didn't hide it, we wouldn't have that information. So underground is all of this massive truth, the history, the facts waiting to be revealed, our past. But for us, it's been kept hidden. One day it will be revealed. They'll open up these tunnels to us. Right now, only the elite can go down there and read the ancient works and know the esoteric teachings, the real scientific reality of this world and why we're here. Perhaps they're so stupid, maybe they're not even allowed to go down in there. Maybe they're just more or less, they get to go to the entrance and slide some food in for the gods, right? But somebody knows what's going on down there, and they're keeping it from us. But, yeah, I think these cities, they just keep building on top. The younger civilization is built upon the ruins of the older, more ancient civilizations. And some of those ancient civilizations were built with huge stones that weigh many tons. They didn't just disintegrate. They're still preserved chambers and rooms and tunnels and cathedrals down under the ground. The truth is we just don't know how many people there may be down there. That may be where all these alien greys are from. I have a feeling these alien greys are not human or biological. I think they may be there, perhaps in recent times they're trying to work do it differently, like somehow enter into us. That may be what the SHOT is, so they can somehow interface with humans, possess us all, and drive us crazy, right? And use this zombie nation as their soldiers, their super soldiers or something, and their spirits will inhabit them. I don't know what they plan on doing there. But before they had this technology, I think they were probably, maybe they couldn't find enough humans to live in and torture. Perhaps mankind has reached a place where they're just too pure and they can't, even, you know, the average person wouldn't be a place that demons were allowed, because our thoughts may be even more too pure for that at this stage in existence. And they had to find some way to continue on their existence, you know, since they don't have bodies of their own, they don't have their own world. So, you know, he says, okay, you can go into the swine. So perhaps there are some very wicked, evil beings that are the only ones that are left that will be used as vessels for this evil, and they don't have enough bodies, so they're making little robotic beings called the alien grays. Maybe it's an army of robots. I don't know, but who knows where these beings are coming from when they see these round ships. The government is coming out on Fox News and everything, telling us that they're seeing them now, and they're saying they're otherworldly. They're admitting it, or at least they're declaring it all of a sudden. And they're saying that these round-looking saucer-like ships that can move at the speed of light or something come flying in, and all of a sudden just stop, and the hole opens up in the ocean and they go down. All right? It could be another one of those stories just to somehow make it make sense to us, like the Roswell story may have just been one of those little modern parables to, you know, symbols so that we'll have some explanation in our head as to why we got all the technology. Because maybe they didn't want to tell us that it was coming from Satan. So they said, oh, Tesla did it, you know? So, but I think that the thousands and thousands of years of history is still preserved down under the ground. And these tunnels are all over the world. Take a look at this. Down here in France, it's called the Pyramid of Salicon. And to look at it, it just looks like a mountain range. It doesn't particularly look like any kind of a pyramid. Although, now there's a reason I'm showing you. See, they're calling this a pyramid. Let me show you. Calling it a pyramid, but of course right there, when you zoom into it, it seems to be just sort of a little chunk of a pyramid sticking up. You can actually go over here and take a look, and it's really not much, but it's just sort of a square altar looking thing. There's some people that have walked up there to look at it, but it's just a kind of a square fence, and it's a kind of flat, like a flat top where maybe someone would make an altar or something. But if you look on this side over here, there's an entrance, and they don't allow you to go down. Maybe we could see that entrance from here. Okay, we're kind of above that entrance, so I don't think we can see down there. I guess it's kind of down that way. There's an entrance right over there. So I was looking around here and thinking, okay, why are they calling this a pyramid? Well, it kind of looks like a pyramid. Maybe that's why. But take a look at some other things here. Let me see if I can find this. So I'm looking at this whole ridge, and I'm starting to see some like walls or ruins. Oh, I was looking at this. This is an interesting edifice here. It's like a big castle, and it's quite impressive. I mean, you know, this is pretty impressive. You got to ask yourself, what's this? You know, yeah, this is something else. You ever heard of the moat and the crocodiles and all of that? Well, it looks like that's you enter the castle, but you see, this castle being up on the hill is acquired dirt and everything. This is an ancient thing that's just been there for what, a long time. It certainly probably looks different now, but all the way down you see these probably garrisons, apartments. This was a complex. These are ancient structures all the way down the mountain. I'll show you here in a second what I'm talking about. Okay, here's what I wanted to show you. So you see this little farm here, or whatever it is, just an innocent little farm. But behind this little innocent farm is this weird looking square, kind of like what we saw before. It's actually a little difficult to figure out what this might be, but it looks like it could be like a wall, certainly a square. And in the middle, we're not getting the depth that we would want, but I think that's a pretty deep little hole there. Who knows if there is actually a hole, but there seems to be like the wall of China, or some kind of a wall made out of rock that has become like a road. This is ancient. You see these walls that extend down the canyon here. They were made in ancient times. Underneath these big humps here, or what appears to be mountains today, is the tops of some sort of huge building-like thing. See, that's a wall. These are garrisons. This is the wall goes all the way around the top of this thing. You see that? And the same kind of thing I have seen in New Mexico, where you go and you snoop around and you go on trails and look at it and say, oh, it's just some rocks piled up over here. It's a little 3-foot wall or something. Well, that might be a bigger than 3 foot there. But no, this is just what is left after maybe thousands of years. They build buildings on top of buildings on top of buildings on top of buildings over the thousands of years the civilization is on Earth. And the ancient ones crumble. These are just remains of cities, walls, and garrisons, kind of like apartment complexes and things that's kind of fallen into the rubble, and then another edifice built on top. And it seems like the elite who have the key to the basement, or those who have the key to the mysteries of beneath, are the only ones that really know what's going on here. Let me show you something else. So from this Pyramid of the Salicon that we're looking at, zoom out of that and go down, and it says here, the ruins, some sort of ruins, de Chateauneuf. And wow, why is this not on National Geographic? I mean, look at this. This is a castle. It's hard to see it. Okay, here we go. This is the remains of a very grand temple. We think of these castles on top as, well, in Europe they made castles, but in Egypt they made pyramids. But underneath these towers that are on top is this huge pyramid that is now just looks like a mountain. There's holes, and it goes underground. And these ruins go all over the tops of these mountains, just as far as you can explore. I wonder what is down and underneath that we can't see. And then look at, so that place that we just looked at, let's see here. The highest point here I think it's, yeah, this Aspermont is kind of like the Fort du Mont, the Mount of the Fort. Now, we just looked at this, but this is what appears to be like the highest peak. We stood right there on the top of this peak. There we go. And took a look from here. We can see all over the world. This is way up here. And this is where they're claiming is this great pyramid. But now look at this. Go down from this pyramid, down to the, I don't know if this is a citadel or something called Salicon. At the top of another ridge. Marie, because remember, Mary Magdalena came to this area of France. And I know there are great mysteries underneath these pyramids that holds great mysteries that they are protecting, and they won't let anybody in there to take a look. This is all quarried. This has been quarried from ancient times, and they're still quarrying holes and tunnels into the rock today. This is basically the entrance to an underground world. And we'll show you that here. So, where we're looking here is where it's called the Pyramid of Salicon. And that is basically near the city of Nice. Nice. And that is on the coast of France, southern France. That is an area not too far, as we said, from where Mary Magdalene landed on the boat with the 72 in Marseille, France. You keep going further, I would say that's western direction, and there's Montpellier, which is interesting. It always sparks a memory in me when I see Montpellier, because I lived in Montpellier, Idaho, for several years. I think one of my brothers still lives there. So going further west than Montpellier, and you come to this La Perthus area. All of these mountains from ancient times had these pyramids. Oh, we see pyramids in Egypt on the southern part of the Mediterranean. There's pyramids in Greece. Why wouldn't there be pyramids all the way around? Well, take a look at this. They claim they were building this highway, and with all the rubble, they threw it together, just bulldozed it up there, and this came out. They're really trying to claim this. They're saying this is not natural. They built it in modern times. Okay, but it's not true, and there are some definitely are some historians and individuals that would beg to differ. You can actually go around this particular pyramid and see the huge stones, some of them weighing tons. The whole area, you can find where they're quarried the rock. You can see all the massive buildings, but they don't know where these buildings came from, who made them, because it seems like a lot of the structure on top is from modern times, but as you go deeper, we're talking about thousands of years ago. Cro-Magnon man or something, to use their words. There are those who have proven archaeologically that this was not some modern, they're hiding it. They've got bars, they won't let you go in. Warning, don't go in. Now, people would say, well, they can't let people in there, they destroy it. Well, okay, but if it's not a sacred site, if this is just a modern little thing that they put up with some bricks for tourism, then why are they keeping it off limits to the public? And what is this temple on the top? That appears to be very modern. Some of the elite, are going through all the trouble of making sure that tourists are not allowed in there. They've even got guards. And they've gone through all the trouble to make this amazing temple, kind of like Epstein Island. Doesn't it look a little bit like that? Or the Temple Ordi in California. Very, very odd. So, you back out of there, you're at this place called Leperthus. And as you can see, there's another strange mountain that does also seem to kind of have the outline of a pyramid, but on top of this one is modern buildings that seem to be in the shape of a star. They don't show you, there's no place to zoom in to take a look at this particular place, but it is quite an edifice. And if you look, there are ancient citadels and walls, remnants of ancient walls all the way around this mountain. This is not just a mountain. This has been used as a city or refuge, a fort, castles. These are ancient walls here. See, this is an ancient temple. And this is where the legends came about Jesus and his bride, Mary Magdalene, and the Knights Templars, and where they all began. You see, we don't have any archaeologists down there studying this. If they do, they're just not telling us. There's a lot of modern work here, but they're just basically repairing the ancient walls as they go. This, my friends, is a very ancient, massive temple. And I guarantee that the elite know They're actually still using it. That's why they're repairing it. They live inside. They have access. This goes down to tunnels that are beneath the earth. They use those tunnels to their advantage. I don't know how many of these buildings that we could go out there and search for and find. There are probably literally millions of them all the way. There are reports of these ancient cities and underground tunnels throughout the entire world. The ones that we are more aware of are in the arid zones where the dry weather has preserved them, and there's not a lot of vegetation and trees and rainforest and, timber, alpine, any kind of trees that would continue to grow and then drop their leaves and make mulch and soil and cover the ruins. But all of the ruins, no matter where they are, if you go to a place like into Russia or into Europe where there's lots of trees, they get buried at just a short period of time. They're under the ground all over the world. It's not just in the equatorial regions. And some of the more massive temples and pyramids may actually be buried into the ground in the forests up in Canada or Siberia or Japan or somewhere in Brazil or something in the rainforest, and not so much these ones that we're seeing. We know that we found them in the United States on the Mississippi. There's one just south of, a very large one, about the size of the one in Egypt, the Giza Pyramid, and that one's in 20, 30 miles south of St. Louis. And they're all over the world. By the way, there are pyramids on the Canary Islands. La Palma that's going off, that volcano. It's called Guamar in the pronunciation, is the name of a municipality, town, and valley in the eastern part of the Spanish island of Tenerife on the Canary Islands and part of Santa Cruz de Tenerife province. The municipality extends for 100 square kilometers from the mountains interior to the beaches on the Atlantic, and borders the municipalities of La Orotava, Arafo, and Faznia. Estimated population 18,589, 2013. There's a motorway that anyway, here's some of the pictures. And they're built in a similar way to the ones in France, which isn't too far from France. The Canary Islands are just off the gates of Gibraltar through Spain, Morocco area into the Atlantic. But these pyramids are all over the world. So that's Marseille, France, and that's where Mary Magdalene landed on the boat. It's not far from there in this Aix-en-Provence where you'll find the Church of Mary Magdalene that's still there today. And there are tours there and stuff. But not far from there, up into the mountains from Marseille, France. Here is this, it's called Box de Provence. Box, as you know, B can be a V. And so they use the word Vox in many areas, and that's a particular name. Actually, my name Vos comes from that word. That is a more Germanic way of spelling the... it's come down, depending on where these individuals would go in history, but their names changed from, in England, they went and they changed it to Voss. And when they came to Boston, it was V-O-S-E, Vos. But I do know that my family line goes back to this particular area where Mary Magdalene and her children were. And I find some very interesting things here. I mean, this is this citadel, this amazing, basically, castle that may have perhaps belonged to our ancestors. It's just fascinating to see this. But take a look at the area here. This is just absolutely fascinating. We see this in these castles, and we think, well, yeah, they built beautiful castles. Oh, yes. What else is new? You know, we've seen this. But it is, you know, we marvel at the construction of the Great Pyramid, but yet there are some fascinating temples and buildings all around the world. This is one area there, I believe, that holds a great secret, a great mystery in the mountains. I'm sure buried beneath the cities that are there now. I'm sure there are blocked off passageways and bars, and it's all locked, and very few, if any, even know where these passageways lead anymore. But this is some amazing architecture. All around the world we find these amazing ruins that if we tried to imagine what they looked like at the time, can you imagine that city right there in front of you? That's all we have left of it there in France. This is my ancestors' cathedral. It looks like a fortress. I mean, you put together in your mind, shine it all up, and I'm sure put some wooden roofs and adobe structures and buildings and apartments and some gardens and gold-plated, you know, something or others. This, you know, maybe fountains coming out of the ground, and they may have had electricity and batteries and lights and things that we don't even know. You know, all we have is this rock structure left behind. You say, yeah, but if they were using rocks, they must have been primitive. Nowadays, we're smart and we're using glass. Well, there may have been a lot of glass. It's all disintegrated and gone back to the sand. But we don't know that they didn't have glass in their windows and stuff like that. But it's very likely that this kind of massive stone building was done with technology far more advanced than what we have, almost as if they had laser beams to cut these rocks. And then to transport them, who knows? Many of these rocks are tons. And to put them all in place and make roads all over the world from, you know, the Grand Canyon and the four corners of New Mexico, all the way to China, Europe, France, Egypt, Africa, Siberia, and all around the world. This is fascinating. But I think even more interesting is that in this area that we're looking at there at the Box province, the castles, it says, below the village of Les Box de Provence, monumental limestone quarries serve as the backdrop for magical multimedia shows, bringing the greatest names in history on art to light, projected on the huge walls, pillars, and floors. The masterpiece comes alive and transports you with music to the colorful worlds of Klimt, Picasso, Van Gogh. So evidently there's these amazing quarries where they got the rocks out of the mountain. This story is not being told. They don't know how they cut these rocks. They're tons. Cut so square and perfectly smooth. They had to have been done by laser. A chisel with a hammer wouldn't get it. It's impossible to quarry these stones out of these rocks without very advanced technology. And it says it's ranked amongst the most beautiful villages of France, perched on a fortified spur and carved in limestone in the heart of Provence. The village of the Box de Provence between Arles, Avignon, and Salon de Provence stands like a stone vessel along its narrow streets, and from the esplanade of its beautiful medieval castle, it offers a breathtaking view of the valley, the Camargue, and on a clear day, the Saint Victoire Mountain. There is also a bird's eye view of the Valley of Hell, where the Quarries of Light are located. Yeah, the Valley of Hell as the atmosphere. A mineral, a chaotic world, landscapes marked by cliffs dotted with caves. At the bottom of Les Box, the Valley of Hell shelters quarries that seem to be guarded by stone monsters. Legends and poets have filled them with fairies and witches. Since 2012, Culture Space has set up its one-of-a-kind audio-visual shows projected on a 10,000 meter square foot of pristine rocks in the heart of the mountain, a place full of history. The quarries of the box include those of the Grands Fonds, currently the site of the Quarries of Light, have provided the beautiful white limestone used in the construction of the village and its castle. They were exploited until the 1920s, then gradually abandoned before closing around 1935. But a poet has taken care of their destiny. Marveled by these dark rooms, these galleries and monumental columns, in 1959, Jean Cocteau filmed The Testament of Orpheus, revealing the magic of this place. State-of-the-art technology for the Quarries of Light. Culture Spaces developed the AMAX art and music immersive experience. Now look at this. There's Marseille, France, right? Right there on the coast where Mary Magdalene landed. There's where her church is in Provence. Okay. Now go on down to this Le Box de Provence and take a look at, zoom in down here. There's just some things you got to see. So then you go straight over here. Yeah, right here. This is the Box de Provence. Zoom down in here. Take a look at this. If you don't think that this is something very, very, very important, take a look at this. These are the Quarries of Light. Okay, they're calling them quarries because this rock was cut straight out of a mountain. Way back in, there are tunnels going. They won't let you in there. There are tours to they can't hide the surface. So they put bars up so you can't go back in there. But there are people that go in there and know what's going on. And for some reason, they never tell us. But these quarries are massive. If the world knew what was under the mountain here, where Jesus' descendants first landed, everything would be revealed. So they let people come and park in the parking lot and look at the hole in the ground, but they won't let people go in to the hole and find out why there's a hole. You remember those mountains we were looking at in the Area 51? There was holes going into the mountain, and on top of the mountain, dead center, there was always a little sort of a station, like a place where big trucks arrive and back up and leave again. What are they coming in here for? Why is this little spot on top of this mountain? What are they doing under the mountain? Why are there guards guarding the passageways? Here's something else by this quarry, light quarries. This is all, there's tunnels all throughout this. There are quarries and masonry rock, walls, and like I said, this was a vast city. It's now overgrown. There, I wanted to go over that rock right there. How do I get over there? Now here you can get a better idea of the architecture up on this mountain. There are rocks stacked on top of older, massive stones that were just cut right out of the rock. You got to figure a lot of this is modern, but it's sitting on top of a more ancient edifice. This architecture. The monks go into these buildings and there's tunnels that go underground. Perhaps the Vatican knows. Maybe the Jesuits know where all of these things are. Look at how clean the quarry is here. Wow. Huh. These rocks are massive. Some of them are literally massive. How do you make this kind of stuff? I mean, we're just looking at the ruins. Imagine if you lived in these days and this was a massive city that covered the whole southern end of France. I'm beginning to think there were more people in those days than there are today. We've got massive ruins all over the world. I'd like to go and see this, but I don't think I'll make it in this old world. You see how square the cuts are. Archaeologists and people who study this kind of thing say that this is not just some brick job. This is amazing architecture. It's very old, and they don't know how they could have possibly done this. These rocks are heavy. This entire mountain seems to be hewn right out of the ground, or we just don't know how they did this. Get this. Wow. What an edifice. Are you serious? This is insane. Have you ever heard of this, guys? How did they do that? You know, remember when we were in along the river there in Tulsa, and we saw the ancient native temple there, and we saw the sundial on the calendar on the rock face, and then we saw these holes in the rock going down like that. This is in America as well. Look at that. Really amazing. Isn't that pretty? I would love to live in an area like this. This looks like my type of climate. But this was all once an ancient city. This is an ancient New York City. I'm sure there was technology that they had that may have been even more advanced than what we have today. We're just looking at the ruins. Boy, I love those junipers. And wow. Isn't that beautiful? These are some modern buildings built on top of an ancient, vast civilization. What's that over there? Let's go take a look and see what that is. Alright, let me look at this again. I gotta figure out where I was. I think we went down right here. Wow. Look at this, guys. This is like a road. It's like the Wall of China. This is, oh man. Look at this over here. There's some ruins up there on the top of that peak over there. All the highest peaks. Look at this. Several stories, and it just keeps going down, down, down. It's just amazing. But I can't find that thing that I was looking at. Try it again. What is that? Unbelievable. Was I looking from here? There's something. There's a little bit more close up of that. What is this, a blimp in the air? We caught a blimp or a UFO. I don't know. Isn't just flat amazing, guys? Oh, man. Yikes. Huh. Well, anyway, I guess I'll go ahead and go. And you guys can go to this area and look around yourself. But, wow. Just amazing. One more look around. Just fascinating. Just fascinating. All right, we'll see you later, guys. Have a great one.